Good morning, y'all. Today is today is day 3. Go, Courtney, of the 21-day challenge. And today I wanted to discuss grief. And two poems that I have on grief. One in my book is called Sorrow. Another that I have is called Grief. And I just wrote it about 2 weeks ago. Typically when we think about grief, we associate it with death. And with loss. And the aspect that I'm coming from with today is about loss, about changes, and the ways that we process grief. When I wrote the poem a couple of weeks ago, I wasn't going through anything present as far as grief goes, but I started feeling sad like a couple of days prior, and I was like, what is this? This feels really like grief, and I couldn't understand where it was coming from. And I was on the phone with a friend, and I was processing some things with her that I was experiencing whenever I went to a certain place. And I was being triggered because it reminded me of some things that I had endured in a past season. And so it was bringing up some fear and some anxiety. And I was like, well, where does grief fit in this? And as I sat down by myself and with the Holy Spirit and started journaling, I realized that, grief can come up for us when there's things that internally we have not. Well, grief can come up anytime, period. The stages of grief are not linear, so you can go through the different stages, whenever you're triggered. But for me, it was coming up because there were still some things that I needed to process. And sometimes when we're in situations, when we're in it, we numb and we pack things away so that we can be able, as a coping mechanism, so that we can be able to get through it. But it's very important for us to be able to go back to those spaces and allow ourselves to heal. And I thank God for that moment in time and for Holy Spirit, which I'm pretty sure, let me finish the sentence so I can get ahead of myself. Thank Holy Spirit for being able to lead me through that process of processing that grief. And I was going to say something and I lost my train of thought. See, that's why whenever I get interrupted with thoughts, I just go ahead and flow with it. So, yeah. Okay. So, I was grateful for that and that poem being able to be written so that I can be able to shift my perception on what I was feeling about grief. Because come on, let's be honest. It's not really like a joyous feeling. So, sadness, grief, anger, we don't want to feel those things, if we can avoid it. So sometimes that's exactly what we do. We avoid it. And it was coming back up for me. And that's good. So that we can actually heal, we need to be able to welcome those things. And sometimes when we're in it, we aren't in a space to be able to, in a safe space to be able to do so. But thank God for Holy Spirit to be able to bring it back around for us to do it and lean into it. So I just want to encourage any of y'all that, whether you're going through a breakup, a betrayal, if a friendship is ending, if you've experienced a death, the loss of a job, any type of changes, maybe even it's an idea, like realizing if you're a parent, for example, if you're parenting and you're realizing as you're being there and doing all you can for your child that maybe you didn't get that benefit or didn't experience something in your childhood, maybe because your parent maybe intentionally chose not to from wherever they were, but also it could be like your parent may have been in survival mode and couldn't offer you certain things or certain experiences, and you may grieve that. Like it may bring up sadness in you for your own child, for the memories of you looking at maybe your classmates and different things. Like my father was incarcerated for 7 years, so I remember feeling sadness, when it came down to events like doing a play at school and everybody seeing other girls being able to hug their dad and their dad putting them around their neck. That was real sadness and grief for me. So being able to go back to that place for myself and allow myself to release that whenever it's being triggered, being able to sit with me and allow, healing as an adult now to come in. And so this is a cycle. Grief, I want to say a cycle, but it's one of those things that throughout life we are going to experience. Just like we want to experience positive and good emotions, like dually, y'all, those other emotions are there as well. And just being able to kind of welcome them and sit with them whenever they come. And if you can't in the moment, being able to get back to that because you deserve it. And some of yes, I already went into some of those things. Another thing is just grieving innocence. So if you did experience some type of trauma, or, in your adult life, if, you was blindsided, you abandoned yourself because you didn't know how it was to really hold space to be there for yourself. Or, you've experienced some form of abuse or someone took advantage of you, allowing yourself to be able to grieve that and move throughout the stages. So quickly, the stages of grief, number one is denial. And before I go into the stages, people can get stuck in these stages for years at a time. So the first thing that we may want to do is kind of to go in shock or avoid it or deny it, and just kind of stuff it, repress, and just keep on moving on with our life like this didn't happen, or we didn't experience it, because it feels like the quick fix and safest thing to do. And truthfully, one of my sayings that I have in my book is expression over suppression, and I live by that. And number two is, I have to live by that, because whenever I feel intensely. And that's what everything, a lot of people think I may be extra, but it's like, hey, when I feel, that's how I feel. When I feel the good emotions, I'm feeling them intensely on 10. When I'm feeling the bad emotions, I'm feeling intensely on 10. When I'm feeling pleasure, I'm feeling it intensely on 10. So everything that may be, regular or small for other people, or just, normal, like it's big. It's big for me. And that's how it comes across. And I'm thankful for it, because, hey, that's how I express it, through writing. All right, and through dance and through many other things. But back to the stages. So denial, then you have anger, and some people get stuck there and aren't willing to forgive, or move forward with their life. So some people get stuck in the past, in these stages of grief, and won't allow themselves the joy of healing and to be able to move forward. Then you have bargaining, and that's when, you're trying to reason, you're trying to go back and forth with the thing instead of being able to put it down and release and let it go. And once you really, kind of realize, you have depression that comes next, or sadness. And then the next stage after that is acceptance. And then you're able to really have some resolve and be able to move forward. So, I'm going to read this poem, and then I'll read sorrow, and then maybe at the end, if not at the end, if I run out of space on my phone, I will go through some tips that has helped me throughout time when it comes down to getting through and dealing with the stages of grief. So this poem is called Grief. Today I welcomed grief. I didn't shun her, I brought her in, knowing that on the other side of grief is where healing begins. I let her be the guide to take me within, showing me where light was diminished, the places of loss, distortions, closed doors, and dead ends. Made in his image, from glory to glory, taking territory, there are parts of me that were meant to be free. The more I evolve, I become aware that I hold the key to access various levels, defeating more and more devils, simultaneously learning to move forward while also reaching back, protected, communing with Holy Spirit to keep me on track. He comforts me, still, allowing love to clear, courage, stepping in the dark with no fear, steady, greeting the shadows with light, focused, peering through the illusions I fight to recapture the fragmented pieces of me. Here, I feel grief. Forgiveness. I sit with her. I hear her. I let her release the anger, the frustration, the hurt, the weary hope and unbelief. Nurtured, cleansing from her crown to her feet. Spirit gives her healing and relief. Affection, offerings of pleasure on repeat. Softened, I love her. I hold her. Comfort her with the gentleness of sweet memory. Rest. She is finally able to relax and take her seat. Trust. I let her lead me back to the dejected places, the numb and abandoned spaces that were forgotten and left behind. Accountable. We reflect, correct, and do the work, no longer blurring the lines. Purified. Allowing Spirit to breathe new life while God redeems the time. Peace. Today I met with grief, for she too is mine. In service, she revealed the dead parts of me, beckoning them to once again shine. Grief. So y'all, I hope y'all enjoyed that. That poem is pretty much allowing Holy Spirit, as we move on through this warfare and we're going from glory to glory, to allow Holy Spirit to lead and guide us through parts of our story that may need to be healed. Okay, we don't have to do it alone. He'll guide us through those dark spaces. All right. And then the second one is sorrow. Hello, my name is Sorrow. I know things you don't want to know. I'm in the places you don't want to go. I'm the one you don't want to show. I come along with the rain, resentment, and pain, causing you to grow higher than you are and deeper than you like to go. If you let me in, I can be a miserable friend or your best motivator. It all depends on you. Yes, hear me out. My name is Sorrow, but I don't hold your tomorrow. Truth be told, I want you to see that you do. So, please push through. Heavy as I can be, I still lie at your feet. I do not like this misery of basking in defeat. As daunting as I may be, I long for the opposite of me, to be in perfect harmony. So, can you please find the strength to worship and put on the garment of praise so your light can shine and brighten up our days? We must find ourselves out of this dark and hazy maze. So my prayer for you all is that you allow Holy Spirit to be able to lead you and guide you through the dark spaces, that we don't run away, but that we have the courage to be able to explore parts of our story. Some of the tips that I wanted to give that helps me when it comes down to that is just basically, number one, praying and allow Holy Spirit to guide us through. Therapy is good. We help us to be able to see the blind sides of our mind and our heart that maybe, too, that we may be blind to when we're telling our story. Things that we may not be aware of that have affected us and may cause grief. Write out your feelings. Sometimes that can be done through letters to others who you may want to forgive. Letters to yourself. Like I've done a lot of writing to myself to past stages, like even teenage, not even just a child, teenage years, young adult years, during times that I've done some things that I may have been ashamed or afraid of and not realizing, and now I'm adult, why I did some of those things. Being able to write letters to myself of compassion and forgiveness to myself, and grace. And then meditation is really good, and also visualization. So being able to visualize yourself outside, or on the other, not outside, I don't want to say outside of those feelings, but on the other side of grief or whatever that you may be feeling, and what that would look and feel like. All right, I hope you all have a blessed day.